This was the age when I was molested by a teenage boy babysitter in the neighborhood. This is the doll that I was holding in that picture when I was probably around 6 years old. And you can see my dog got a hold of her at some point, and I sewed up her arm and her leg and her dress. And I wish it was that easy to sew up the damage that is done when you're molested. I've told my story many, many times, and I didn't think I would get emotional today. And the reason why I wanted to step in and do this is a long time coming, people. It's a long time coming for men and for women, and for men who have been hurt and for women who have been hurt. My husband was the director of counseling for 9 years in 2 different residential facilities. I wasn't sure what my role would be in joining him at these residential facilities. My background is hair and makeup. I was a hairdresser. But I knew I had my own story. And what happens, yes, we say, oh, is it for drug addicts and alcoholics and eating disorders? Yeah. But once they're on campus, once you hear the backstory, the majority have molestation or abuse, incest, trauma of some kind that led to drug use, stripping in clubs, on the streets. We can never stand in judgment of anybody. And so those 9 years listening to hundreds of stories gave me an opportunity to heal in my own, to share my story. You can't weigh or judge or measure what someone receives from what they've experienced. You could have 3 different girls in class, and I used to teach an inner healing class, and all of them might have a similar rape story, and then everyone reacts differently based on different aspects of Were they supported? Did they have someone to tell? Did someone believe them or not? Like I said, my head is swimming. There's so many stories in my head. But my point in making this video is, it's on the news, and I know that there's very many hurting young women who are being triggered by the news, being triggered by memories and flashbacks. And as a wife of a licensed counselor and someone who worked in trauma, I sat in on all the group sessions, that it's so important that you get the help you need immediately. I went online yesterday to see what are the Me Too stories coming up, and watch some young woman for the first time tell her story on the camera, and my heart was very conflicted, because it was a brave act for sure, but also I know as a counselor slash helper that speaking it out probably put her in a triggered place, and she may still be there. So I have many stories, so let me jump into those. So probably around 6, I was molested by a babysitter in the neighborhood. By the grace of God, my mother knew what had happened. She won't give me details of what I said or anything. It's probably too hard for her. I have some vague memories. And this kid lived across the street, and he was obviously never allowed back to babysit again. My mother explained it like this. She said, well, you had this deer in the headlights look the next day, and I knew something happened. Of course, that didn't stop the fact that I played out in the street with my friends, and when you're a child and the person's a teenager, they feel and look and sound like an adult to a small child. And I remember he was in his garage, and he's like, come on into my garage, and intrepidly, I remember, like an out-of-body experience now as I can picture it, laying down my bicycle and walking toward this black hole, because when it's sunny out and someone's in the garage, it's like black, you really can't see in. And when I got in view, at that point he was already unzipping, and I ran away. So, second time, I was an athlete, and I was jogging to be in shape. I was a long distance swimmer and a diver. And I was riding downtown. Lots of people, lots of cars, small New England town. Some of the streets downtown had one-way streets and kind of went around the duck pond. There's a duck pond, and so I'm jogging, and I just, like, this car following me? Like, no, they're not following me. I think this car is following me. And so all of a sudden, this guy pulls over in front of a liquor store, double parks, 2 cars, and he yells into the owner, and he goes like this, which in my mind is like, give me my daily pint, is assuming what he was asking for. So he runs back in his car, and he visually zooms up to catch up to me, and I'm like, this guy is following me. And so, quick thinking, I decided to jog down a one-way street the wrong way so he couldn't follow me. Well, then he got mad and he took a quick left, peeled through some parking lot, and literally came out and met me at the other end. And obviously by then I knew he was stalking me. And I understand when women are just like, what is going on? And you don't stop it. You don't know what to do. So I was jogging down I was about to go down another street, and I purposely jogged enough into the street, knowing that once I got into the street a little bit, and if he was still following me, because you're still kind of not sure, that once he got into the turn, I would stop and run the other way. So I went down this street, and by the grace of God, again, he put his blinker on. I'm like, he is coming after me. And this street now was getting into a wooded area. So he turns into the turn, and immediately I turned around and went the other way. And again, a car was coming with a bunch of my high school friends in it. And I literally ran into the middle of the street and stopped the car. It's like, get me home. Take me home. Somebody is chasing me. This is ridiculous. And of course there was teenage boys in the back seat, and it was the 1970s, and I had blonde hair and a tan, and I was a lifeguard, and laughing, ha ha ha, blah blah blah, drove me home. Well, from that day forward, I could never jog again. Another time, at a pool party where I worked at the YMCA. Again, 1970s, Speedos. Yeah, Speedos. In the water, hanging out, playing with my friends. I was 15 or 16. My boss jumps in the water, and what I didn't know then, that they used to go do drugs in the hot tub room, or the sauna rather. They go in a sauna. This is before hot tubs. They go in the sauna, get all sweaty, jump in the cold pool. Jumps in the water, grabs me, and now my arms are down, so I'm grabbed, and obviously he's behind me. Would not, and he's right here in my ear, and Speedo, yeah, wouldn't let go. I'm screaming. Now the pool is full of people and it looks fun, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, and all of a sudden my brother realizes it, and he was lifeguarding for the party. He probably volunteered for that duty because he's a good guy. And he dives from the lifeguard stand into the water, and thank God he knew how to dive right because it was shallow, and he pulls him off of me. And it's like, really? I have another story. First boyfriend. I'm 15. And this is where I think where the girls can get confused about, yeah, we fooled around, no intercourse, but your typical fooling around, kissing, but you're 15. You don't get it. You don't know what it is they ultimately want. At least I had no clue. That was it. There was no taking no for an answer, and I was raped. And it's that, let's just get this over with and get me out of here. And I think when that happens for some young women, it's like, well, I laid there and let it happen. No, it don't blame yourself like that. And that, that was it. I was never gonna lay eyes on him again. Those are my Me Too stories. And it never leaves you. My husband and I have had to learn how to deal with those stories. You could be a counselor and still have your stuff. But I will say, and this is what's very interesting, when I did move into forgiveness, especially for the teenager, as an adult, sometimes you have to go back and talk to the child. As an adult who's safe and protected, has to go back and talk to that child and say, listen, you're good now. I've got you. And I was able to look at my 6-year-old self and look at this thoroughly confused 13-year-old boy. And when I look at the whole family, everyone was messed up. And again, I am not excusing. Please don't take that as excusing. But I needed to understand, and I needed for my own healing to move into forgiveness. So after I was able to step into forgiveness of that teenager, I actually had a burning passion in my heart for teenage boys. My older daughter, God bless her heart, had pretty severe ADHD, which got her into a lot of trouble. And also brought these fringe kids, is what we called them back in the 80s. But these kids came into our home whose parents were on drugs or in jail, or there was 3 different fathers in the family, and there was abuse or being raised by the grandparents. And I just fell in love with these kids, and we opened our home to them for a season of our lives, and had one kid living in our basement, and constantly they were at the house. We always had food for them because there wasn't always food at home, and so my trauma story was able to be used for good. And I know there are many out there who are doing the same, and I honor you in that. And it's important work. And so if there's any way that you're at a good place with your Me Too story, and you might want to volunteer at a rape crisis center, or a Celebrate Recovery in your church, or just look out there. What's Teen Challenge organization? There's all kinds of places where you could help, and it'll help you in the process. I'm grateful that this is coming out, and for many of us, and I hope between my jade bracelet and my jewelry and my African jewelry, that there isn't any woman or man out there that I've missed to reach. So, if you're going to share your story, bless you, and make sure you tell some people. And pay attention to how you're feeling the next couple of days afterwards. And see somebody if you need to. This is a revolutionary time, and I'm grateful to be alive, to be a part of it. I just painted this backdrop yesterday for my YouTube channel that I'm wanting to start. And my husband and I are going to start a series on mental health with Fritz and Gretchen. That's our names, Fritz and Gretchen. We've been married 37 years. And I thought, I'm going to start a self-awareness series. And it's like, wow, you can't start a self-awareness series without getting this one done first. And I don't want to sound salesy, by no means, but we do have a lot more to say and a lot of help to offer, I hope. I even hate to say it, please subscribe to my channel. But I would appreciate that. And I guess there's like a little bell icon, and if you click the bell, you'll be notified when new videos come out. And right now my husband and I, we do seminars, and we are working on a strengthening your marriage seminar that we hope to bring in video format, online format, something. We're putting it together now. We've done parenting seminars, many different kinds of seminars. So, but wow, what a privilege to get this Me Too story done. And I hope I've helped you, and I hope that no one stays silent. It doesn't have to be this format, but I hope you don't stay silent. God bless. Thank you for your time and attention.